welcome to the My Amazon Guy Tuesday PPC AMA. I'm Marissa, Linzey, your host. I'm brand director here at My Amazon Guy. I'm joined today by Adam Mellott. Hello. He is a senior advertising executive at BetterAMS, which is a agency, correct me if I'm wrong, that also focuses on optimizing Amazon ads, any kind of ads, including DSP, right?
Correct.
That's pretty impressive. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about BetterAMS?
Yeah, so super happy to be here, guys. As Marissa said, my name is Adam Mellott. I am a senior advertising executive at BetterAMS, heavily involved in leading strategy and execution for some of our largest managed brands. I'm also involved in training and onboarding new employees, a huge proponent of PPC education and content, improving company systems and processes. So that is a little bit about myself. I live here in beautiful Oregon, close to the mountains. So I've spent a lot of time outside. And then at BetterAMS, I think you hit the nail on the head, Marissa. We help brands on Amazon reach their goals and scale their business through curated ad strategy, different for every brand that comes through. So.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's, we see the same kind of thing here at My Amazon Guy as well. We have a fair bit of, PPC only clients, so where we also create content and that kind of thing. A lot of them, have their own, content going and everything looks great. They just need a little bit of help restructuring and also just kind of, staying relevant and, giving the whole ads console a little bit of a refresh. So definitely interested to ask you some questions today and have some questions come in, hopefully today. So as a reminder, we do have a hard stop at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but if we do run out of questions, we may end earlier. So make sure to get your questions in ASAP, as soon as possible. We have a hello, also thanks for your valuable time. So yes, thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. So I understand you also, BetterAMS also has a podcast. Is that accurate?
It is. Yes, we are in the works of rolling out additional episodes here at the beginning of Q4. So you can expect to hear new episodes here shortly.
Okay. How is that structured? Is it a similar kind of like you have like pre-selected questions that are kind of read off, or do you just kind of talk about strategy?
Yeah, I think it's more of a just conversational dialogue.
Yeah.
We like to kind of let things flow. We like to hear from the experts as opposed to us sort of curating the podcast itself. So largely a free conversation.
That's so fun.
Yeah, a lot of value provided when you.
I think so. I think the hardest thing is just learning. I think there's a lot of people that it can seem daunting to be in like a whole built out ads console. And, I think being that it's been around so long, you have some people that, maybe don't fully like understand everything. And it's really important to have, all of those resources out in the open. And that's something we really value here. My Amazon Guy as well. Learning is one of our core values. So we're really big proponents on having YouTube videos out there and making it super accessible for other people to learn.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan of My Amazon Guy School and your courses as well. Definitely follow along what you guys do there. So awesome work. And yeah, in an ever-changing landscape, I mean, you have to stay up to date with, new rollouts, new features, continue testing, as I'm sure all of you know. So it is not easy to stay up to date, but I'm glad we have such a great community that is truly involved in educating the masses.
Definitely. Okay. It looks like we have our first question from Gregor, a longtime podcast regular here. Hi guys, nice to see you. My SP videos perform much better than the SP campaigns. I do target the same keywords, but the videos deliver much better results. Why is that happening? Thanks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different variables here when it comes to sponsored brand videos versus sponsored product ads, placement, motion within the video itself, the creative itself. So while there are a lot of factors here, generally we see sponsored brand video perform well because of the educational piece, right? You're able to showcase what your products do, what they feature, any competitive advantages you may have there. And honestly, when we see a strong creative across sponsored brand video, I don't necessarily think it's abnormal for that specific campaign to perform better than sponsored product campaigns, especially because sponsored product at top of search is such a highly competitive landscape at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You're able to show, which is, really vital for products, especially ones that, maybe are new to the space.
Mhm.
I know we have a lot of kind of, new inventions or, products that are really, you know, kind of created like on Amazon, right? Like they're Amazon brands kind of, being that, a lot of these sellers don't have their own websites or, selling spaces and that kind of thing. So SB videos can be really helpful just to, show somebody like, how does this work? Who is it for? Right. What are you trying to accomplish? What need does this product fill? Right.
Yep.
So that can definitely be why. I've seen SB videos sometimes even run like really low A costs, like, as opposed to, some SP. SB obviously kind of the bread and butter of a lot of people's, whole entire ads makeup. But I think a lot of people are really kind of, afraid to utilize videos.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have to be like super like IMAX, Christopher Nolan, like quality. But you can really create something that gets the point across and, still looks nice. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
I would agree. And I want to stress, in my experience across video advertising, especially on the Amazon platform, the first, I would even say 2 to 4 seconds are detrimental
Yeah.
to grasping that customer's attention. If it's a slow start, as we know, sponsored brand video auto plays immediately. And if a customer is viewing that video over the first 2 to 3 seconds and they're not seeing anything engaging, a lot of them will move off, right? So it is
Yeah.
our job as advertisers to grab that attention within the first few seconds as soon as that video is
Yeah.
played. I would definitely say that is a good sound piece of advice for sponsored brand and sponsored display video.
Yeah. People's attention spans, not great sometimes when scrolling in the scroll cycle.
Yeah, it's you know, you want quick gratification on the
Yeah.
platform. You want to find exactly what you're looking for quickly. Not a ton of time in the aisle itself. So use that information how you will. But we find that again, generally the best performing video campaigns have descriptive content within the first few seconds.
Yeah. I tend to also recommend no longer than like 30 seconds, like total for the video. I know you can go longer, but
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Again, quick gratification. So
Yeah.
most shoppers want to know exactly what they're looking at pretty quickly.
Okay. Next question. So my question is, as Q4 is arriving, there's a lot of competition all around. What strategies are you using to refer like for new sellers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is an ever increasing landscape as far as competition is concerned, and this Q4 should be very interesting to say the least. But as far as new strategies, it's going to depend on the intent, right? Are you looking to rank? Are you looking to scale the account profitably? Are you looking to show up more often directly in your respective category?
Yeah.
So I think, we could definitely get a bit more specific with intent with campaigns. But one thing I would recommend here in Q4 is awareness plays. There are going to be a lot of new shoppers across a lot of categories in Q4 on Amazon looking for gift purchases, um, fan purchases for football as an example. We have Prime Day, we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday around the corner. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity during periods of high traffic to get your brand in front of new shoppers and really work to acquire new to brand customers. So I would highly, highly recommend utilizing as many awareness plays as your budget and your KPI allow in Q4.
Definitely. Okay. And then I guess a follow-up question I would have is Prime Day specific, being that that's coming up October 10th and 11th. Do you have any specific tips for Prime Day specifically that you wanted to share maybe?
Yeah, I think two things here. Budgets, ever
Yep.
important. Make sure you do not run out, or work within your means, of course.
Yep.
And this is not, and this goes for any high traffic event. I think of this as lead in, event, lead out, as opposed to simply advertising to acquire conversion on the event itself, right? There's going to be a lot of build up to the date, a lot of browsing going on 72, 48, 24 hours prior. And then afterwards, you're going to have an opportunity to remarket to those customers who maybe didn't end up converting on Prime Day, or maybe ended up converting on Prime Day and are planning on coming back in a few weeks, for another refill or what have you. So think holistically about your strategy as far as Prime Day is concerned. If your advertising stops when Prime Day stops, you're missing out on sales.
I agree. I tend to have the belief, as far as SQP is concerned and stuff like that, week before, um, or maybe I guess week of, pull all of your add to cart data, right? That's going to be really interesting as, Prime Day approaches because people are going to stockpile stuff, right?
Yeah.
We always see people like adding to cart and then just waiting it out,
Yep.
waiting for a deal, coupon, strike through. So I think that data is really valuable. And then I think the week after Prime Day, whenever that search query performance report comes out, last time it was like the Thursday after, like it was really late just because there's just so much data. Um, really look at the purchases and any new behavior you're seeing. So I tend to pull the SQP like, monthly. But I like to do it weekly after, if there's some viral event, like if they're featured in like a news article or something like that, or Prime Day.
Mhm. Absolutely. And, to go one step further there, I would take a look at market basket analysis as well
Yeah.
during periods of high traffic. There's always going to be opportunity to cross promote and upsell your products with or across, branded shoppers. So there is always opportunity there,
Yeah.
especially after Prime Day.
Creating new bundles, maybe like if people are buying stuff together. Physical bundles is, what I would recommend. But if you want to test it with virtual bundles, you can do that too.
Agreed.
Okay. Next question from Jeffrey. How can I hunt down less expensive or small budget opportunities for DSP?
Yes, another good question. So, I think of DSP. When I think of DSP, I often think of the marketing funnel as far as risk is concerned. Um, if you are working with a small budget on DSP, I would recommend starting at your lowest risk possible, um, with the exception of your DSP intent being to acquire new to brand customers. I always recommend highly targeted, precise remarketing via DSP. That's going to be generally your lowest hanging fruit, especially across consumables, CPG products. That's going to generally drive the most value there. So, if you are working within a set budget, I would recommend utilizing audiences across your flagship products, since those are generally going to be the largest. You're going to have the largest sway there in the category and across your brand. Um, but again, it just depends on intent and what you're trying to do with the platform.
Definitely. It doesn't change just because it's, DSP.
Exactly. Exactly. They work great in tandem.
Could you do a deep dive in the SD types, including personalized, and where you've seen success?
Yes. Great question. I think it is no surprise that sponsored display is underutilized. And with DSP, we can obviously get a lot more precise there with awareness plays, remarketing plays. So, sponsored display seems like it's a bit underutilized at this point. As far as what I've seen work as of late, I definitely would recommend those cross sell upsell opportunities. If you sell a flagship product that has a bunch of accessories, consider advertising those accessories directly on the PDP or to purchaser audiences of those who purchased your flagship product. Generally, that's further down the funnel, a customer is already converted there, and at that point, you're pushing for loyalty. So that would be one recommendation that I would absolutely recommend utilizing in Q4. Sponsored display video for awareness and customer acquisition is another one I think is underutilized. They're with expanded and exact ASIN targeting now, we have capabilities to kind of go beyond our initial targets and really work to promote new products or flagship products through motion, right? Through video. So massive opportunity there. And again, your KPI there should be ultimately customer acquisition and not ACOS if you're running awareness plays, especially during periods of high traffic.
Definitely. I'd agree there.
Awesome.
When in general should we go for broad, when for phrase, and when for exact match?
Yeah. So it's going to depend on how much you'd like to spend on Amazon, as always. And it's going to depend on match type, et cetera, particular product, your margin, all of that good stuff. What I always recommend naturally is segmenting out match types. Broad, phrase, and exact should be in different campaigns. That is golden rule of PPC.
Yes.
But I ultimately recommend testing all three, especially across sponsored products. You're never going to know how things perform unless you test. And there's always room for testing at low budgets, right? If you want to roll broad match out at 25-cent bids or 50-cent bids, generally you're not going to see as high of an ACOS as if you use Amazon suggested bids as an example. So test and optimize based on what's working and what's not working. Oftentimes I see lesser conversion. I would say almost all the time I see lesser conversion across broad, but a higher reach because you're covering search term variation. So I would say there's different intent oftentimes from broad to phrase to exact, but definitely recommend utilizing all of them.
I'd agree. And I think, a really common misconception is that, taking a certain keyword from broader phrase and then putting it into exact match, like it'll perform like exponentially better in exact match and, the ACOS will be so much better. And I think it just kind of, depends sometimes, on what those searches kind of yield and what that space looks like. But I definitely think there's value in having all of them and, not going straight to exact match, right? I've had a lot of success with broad and phrase, even like broad match modifiers too and stuff like that. So definitely don't be afraid to branch out and try all of them and see what works for your specific product.
Yeah, completely agreed. And there's going to be a ton of data across broad and phrase that you can use to your benefit, right? A lot of broad campaigns are generally used for data collection, awareness plays, seeing what keywords or what search terms convert the best in hopes that you can move it over to exact. So definitely take in the educational piece of broad and phrase as well.
Definitely. And this can even look like, going back to search query performance report, like taking a portion of a certain like really long tail keyword that maybe you want to target in exact, but maybe you only want to take a portion of it, right? And target that in phrase. So that's, just an example of how you can really kind of branch out and try a whole, different kind of approach based on which match type.
Completely agreed.
Okay. Thanks, Adam and Marissa. You're so welcome.
Our pleasure.
We have a good morning from Brandon Sends It.
Good morning, Brandon.
Morning. This is an interesting one. Hello there. Thank you, Marissa and Adam, for conducting this session. I want to start my career as an Amazon PPC manager. If you can give any advice, it would be highly appreciated. So I guess, like, what do you look for at BetterAMS, being that you do help train people, coming into the company?
Yeah, I would say, there's quite a few personal aspects we look at when we have people come in. General intuition and work ethic, of course, is number one. And I think that's pretty standard across any industry, not just Amazon. But, my recommendation would be just to educate yourself as much as possible, specifically on the basics, because the basics go a long way, even when you're managing at scale. You will come in throughout your career, let's say you're managing a brand new 8-figure brand. Oftentimes you'll come into the account and find that there are very, very basic mistakes still made in the account. So do not get away from the basics of advertising and Amazon PPC. Certainly going to be important throughout the entirety of your career. Additionally, I would definitely recommend utilizing YouTube. Tons of great content there from great advertisers across multiple channels, not just Amazon. And then, take courses and take Amazon certifications, any sort of testing, any sort of additional education directly from Amazon you can do is ultimately going to help your learning. Would definitely recommend my Amazon guy as well for education. I know you guys are excellent at what you do. So
Thanks. Yeah. To add to that, a lot of our, PPC managers at MAG are kind of introverted. I think that's, being in the role I'm in, being on a podcast on YouTube, that tends to, be more of an extrovert kind of role. But with that said, if you are somebody who's comfortable on like coming on client calls and stuff like that, especially within MAG, and actually talking like with clients about their PPC, or even just like meeting with the brand managers and stuff like that, and providing like strategy, and always having kind of like a new spin on how to grow and that kind of thing. I think strategy is one of the number one things we push here, at least, because there's always another way to grow, right? Never stop growing. Always, try to. We have clients on different ends of the scale. We always ask, where are you on a scale of like 1 to 10, with 1 just wanting to be super profitable and 10 wanting to grow. So I think, being sensitive to clients' wants and needs, not just kind of, doing your own thing. I think that's helpful within ads, even though sometimes you really want to spend more, or, kind of go off the cusp a little bit. So those are some things that we look for. But I think what you said pretty much covers it as well, just as far as, what your work ethic is like, and, general kind of personality stuff too. Eagerness is, a core value of ours. So
agreed, largely agreed.
good morning. Hope all is well. Hello, Rough Liners. They're a client here at MAG, also
Awesome.
longtime podcast regulars.
Amazing. Great to see you here.
I like this question. What are the top 5 basics of PPC we should never forget?
Oh, weighted question. I like this one. I'm going to start with an example that I had already used. Never mix your match types.
Number one.
Optimization and keyword optimization and budget optimization becomes increasingly harder if you have mixed match types. I would say utilize a full funnel approach. That should absolutely be a golden rule of PPC. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. If 100% of your budget is going to sponsored product ads, certainly leaving traffic and ultimately conversion on the table there. Let's see. I would say understand your competitive landscape and your category. If you are advertising blindly and are unaware of what's going on within your specific competitive landscape, then your advertising is never going to perform at maximum capability. And last but not least, I would say understand your products completely and entirely. There are, especially from the brand to agency relationship, I've realized throughout my career, that there are a lot of times where people will go through the motions when managing advertising, and they don't come to fully understand the product catalog, or the product functionality, or what problems they solve for a specific customer. And there's a lot of opportunity within those specific fields of advertising. So definitely understand your product in its entirety before you set up advertising campaigns.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I think those are some good rules of thumb. I think what you said about understanding your competitive landscape, I think it's super important. So many people I find don't even search their own brand on Amazon, right? Like, who is showing up for your headline ads, right? If it's not yours, like, that's a problem, right? Who's showing up on your products, right? Like underneath, like who is trying to take up your Amazon real estate. So really searching your own products, and being aware of who's popping up, right? There's new competitors all the time. Sometimes, they're legit. Sometimes they're Chinese companies. Just being aware is really the first thing. And I did that today for a client audit. I was like, hey, brand manager, we need to be targeting these three competitors are popping up all over for these branded searches, right? So I think that's really important. I think that's really useful advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an ever-changing landscape. Just always keep that in mind and never be content with what you have going on. There's always room to build and test.
Definitely. Have you guys gone through Helium 10's Freedom Ticket regarding PPC and H10's PPC Academy?
I personally have not.
I haven't either. If you take it, please let us know how it is. I'm curious now.
Yeah, I would love to learn more. I actually am still in the process of building an internal and external PPC training. So, any feedback that we receive across other courses is always valuable.
Yeah, easier said than done, right? I tend to like I did a Google ads like a few like Google ads trainings and stuff like that. I like that they're interactive. If I had like one point of feedback, maybe for even our own training at MAG, is that having those interactive modules and we link YouTube videos like within our trainings in MAG school. But I think there's a big difference between telling somebody how to do it, and there's a lot of people who just learn naturally, like more hands-on. So I'd be interested, like if they had like interactive modules or how that was kind of set up. But I mean, we use Helium 10 all the time here. I have no doubt that it's probably a really good training.
Yeah, yeah, I largely agreed. I'm a huge fan of Helium 10, huge proponent as well. Would definitely be interesting to see the general landscape of how the training is set up. But I think you hit the nail on the head in that nobody wants to come on and pay for a course and ultimately just read a wall of text, right? It needs to be interactive. It needs to be engaging. There needs to be opportunity to do things aside from just read text to educate themselves. So very interesting to see how the course rolls out.
Yeah, I feel like more and more of them are popping up, and I love to see that. Like I like having options. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've been experimenting with lowering cost per click on an overall account. Conversion actually stayed the same with no direct drop in overall sales. With that, obviously, the amount of spend dropped. Is there a part two? Yes, there is a part two. Okay. Normally at 10% tacos, this month at 8.5. How would I ratchet up spend at this preferred CPC? So I'll go back and bring up the first part of that question again as well.
Interesting. So if there was no drop in overall sales, I would assume that there was some bleeding spend going on here.
Yeah.
Granted, there's not if I had data to look at, it would be a different explanation. But it seems to me that there may have been a bit of bleeding going on in the account, just because you lowered your tacos by 1.5 percentage points, at stable sales. So I would recommend just getting highly targeted with your additional budget. If you plan to push your tacos KPI back up to 10%, really, really drill down and figure out what the intent is of your campaigns. Are you looking to acquire new customers? Are you looking to rank? Are you looking to cross-sell and upsell within customers who are already aware of purchased your brand? There's a lot of different avenues you can go here. It's just going to depend on what your ultimate goal is.
Definitely. I think if you're trying to be profitable here, 8.5 is definitely pretty profitable for tacos. I would say if you're trying to grow, that tacos is probably too low. That might be a controversial take there, but I tend to think that anything, under maybe like a 13% tacos, is maybe limiting how far your reach is going to be, and you're potentially losing, some sales.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone has different margin, right, to adhere to,
Yeah,
and everyone has different goals. So no two brands are the same in that regard, but work within your means. And if you are working under your means, and you're okay with where you're at, then you can assume that you're leaving growth opportunity on the table, right? At 8.5%. So it seems like you've done an excellent job of cutting down bleeding spend in the account. with minimal negative impact, which is always exactly what you want to see when sort of budgeting and trimming back. But now comes the question of where does that spend get reallocated to? And that is for you to answer on your end. So
Definitely. I think it's worth saying too, they posted this as well. Just because a cost per click is like $5 or something, doesn't mean that you have to actually spend the full $5 or whatever it is to get the impressions, to get visibility. That's kind of an average. Um, I've seen, cost per clicks that are like $5. People that are spending $1 and are still getting like, tens of thousands of impressions, and, their ROAS and everything like that is crazy town, right? It's great. So I think it kind of depends, like you said, on how much you're trying to spend, what it is you're trying to do. Maybe the bleeding was, you were just paying more for a bid than you realistically maybe had to. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards with this question.
yeah, I think I would agree there. I think of it in terms of how quickly your budgets are pacing throughout the day as well. And obviously at a higher cost per click or a higher bid, you don't have room to spend within that set amount. So,
Yeah.
as an example, if you have a $10 budget across one campaign and your keyword bids are set at $2.50, but your conversion rate is 20%, then one can assume you may not ever get a sale within that 24-hour period because you're only budgeting for 4 clicks, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to 50-cent bids at a $10 budget at a 20% conversion rate, you're able to stretch out that budget more over time, and ultimately perform at a lesser conversion rate, while still working to acquire orders within that set budget. So bid ops is very important for your goals as far as profitability is concerned. But I'm assuming that's exactly what happened here. It sounds like you just opened up budgets and allowed things to kind of run throughout the day at a lesser cost, and at a slightly lesser conversion rate, which I would presume just due to lower CPC. So
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So that's all questions we have right this second. So while, we wait for potentially more to come in, you mentioned pacing as far as, letting the campaigns kind of run their course throughout the day, and how that was, happening a little bit better. I did see through the grapevine that Amazon is kind of letting you day part now, within the normal ads console and not just exclusive to DSP. Have you gotten to try that yet? Is that something that you've gotten to like implement on like a large scale yet, or?
great question. So that is something that I have not implemented or tested just yet, for a couple different reasons. Predominantly, while this is a fantastic rollout and provides a ton of opportunity, I think we need to keep in mind that this is ultimately permission to further increase bids, which can throw off bid optimization on your day to day. So I think of this as, ultimately maintaining as much control as possible versus releasing additional control to Amazon. If you were going to test this, I would highly, highly recommend testing at a small scale, perhaps across just 1 or 2 specific campaigns for your top products. But keep in mind that, if you have bid ops software running within your account, this has the potential to throw things off, similar to how placement modifiers do. So just things to keep in mind.
It came with the warning. You're like, I don't know about that.
Full
So
transparency.
yeah. No, I think depending on what your brand is and what you're selling, this can be, you know, like you said, right? This could really cause your bids to kind of go all over the place, and your spend to kind of go all over the place. Um, but like depending on what you sell, right? I have a client that sells like bathroom hand dryers, like um, where people, who are buying this, they're usually using like company card. It's mostly B2B, right? They're mostly buying these types of appliances and that kind of thing during the daytime, right? During business hours. So they're not thinking about like a bathroom hand dryer at 7 o'clock at night when they're like chilling at home, like that is not on their radar, right? So I think for a client, right, that from 9 to 5 has, tens of thousands of dollars in sales, but beyond that, they're really not making any, or they're just kind of, bleeding. I think a tool like that is fantastic. But I don't think that's everybody. So
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I would highly, highly recommend ingraining AMC insights into your day parting strategy if that's ultimately what you plan to test. But if you're going in blind, I think that's the issue for the majority of brands who want to test this, is they're unaware of the implications after things are implemented and things are rolling. So make sure you have as much insight as possible into your purchase timing and purchase frequency before going in and implementing an aggressive
going
bid.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How often do you do PPC optimization? Once a week, once every 2 weeks? How often do you download PPC reports and what kind? Search terms, targeting, which are the most utilized? So I think this is a great BetterAMS question specifically as far as how you operate there.
Yeah, absolutely. So great question, or questions. But how often do we optimize PPC? At this point, it is varying for every brand. It depends on when our strong periods are versus when our low periods are. I work specifically with a brand that performs exceptionally well on the weekends and is relatively flat through the week. Um, so, as an example, for that brand, we're optimizing pretty often, twice on the weekends, a couple times during the week. But as far as general optimization, I would say, every 3 days, two to three times a week. You never want to make decisions based on immediate data. So, as an example, if you had one keyword yesterday that converted 4 times out of 10 clicks, and you increase that bid pretty aggressively, you may find that in a month, it may have one order and 20 clicks. So I would say just allow your campaigns time to accrue data and utilize that data to best optimize towards your ultimate goal. Long-winded answer, but that is what I'd
Yeah, I
recommend.
think it's a good one. I think
Yeah.
it's a good one. And being that your weekend brand is just super well, I'm sure you have a lot more data
Yeah.
to actually parse through and work with during that time if you're getting a lot of hits during that time. I tend to see if people are optimizing like every single day, they don't have nearly enough clicks to be able to make any like educated kind of decisions as far as like what's actually working and like what's not, or so I'd agree, waiting. And then what reports do you utilize the most, would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I am a big fan of just your classic search term report. I think that there is a lot of learning that can be done, especially across various match types there, right? Huge fan of exporting and throwing a filter on and, filtering by conversion rate or
Now that you
filtering.
can. Yes.
Exactly. Now that you can. So I would say, general search term report, advertised product report, and I would honestly work within the SQP, market basket analysis, demographic insights, tons and tons of very, very valuable insight directly in brand metrics. So would recommend starting there as well.
Yeah. If Amazon is giving you this information for nothing, take it, use as much as you can. And with respect to demographics, I can't tell you how many times I've looked at somebody's demographics and, their images on the listing don't reflect their target demographic, right?
Yeah.
Like we had, a juice client one time where their main target demographic was like young people and that kind of thing. But they were leaving out another big demographic, which was like older people and not showing them in their demographic, or lifestyle images as well.
Right.
So your target demographic wants to see themselves represented in the product, and to know that it's for them, right? People want to feel like what they're buying is specifically for them. So
Yeah, I
that's
completely
just that
agree.
marketing advice. But definitely all of those reports, brand analytics are so valuable. From Jaleel, during the launch phase, if you're being super aggressive, high bids, fixed, up and down targeting, what are some metrics and KPIs you look for, even though spend ACOS and tacos will be high? And then do you also factor in organic keyword ranking into those metrics and KPIs, or just the standard CVR, clicks, impressions, sales, and orders?
That is a fantastic question. Fantastic. So to start here, we segment budget based on campaign intent. I actually had a LinkedIn post on this yesterday. But ultimately, different advertising strategy should have different KPI, right? Awareness campaigns, lesser conversion rate can be accepted at the expense of customer acquisition, visibility, engagement, etc. And on the ranking side, high ACOS can be accepted, high CPC can be accepted as long as conversion rate is there and as long as you're achieving organic rank or maintaining organic rank. So I would say, assuming we're talking about a ranking strategy here, conversion rate for certain is going to be a huge part of how you rank organically. So, would recommend getting dialed in with the keywords that you want to rank for specifically, and evaluate conversion rate across those specific keywords, across the launch phase in correspondence with your organic rank change day to day to see how you're performing there.
Definitely. Okay. And then from David, hi, so what ad campaign structure would you recommend for fine jewelry selling? Gold, silver, diamonds, metals, etc. I've paused some of my campaigns that were not performing well for certain keywords as my ACOS was high, so 95 to 110%.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a really competitive category. I have some, a client or two in this kind of space as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, any advice here?
Yeah, I would, first start by asking why your ACOS is high. Is it due to low conversion rate? Is it due to high bidding? So I think that would be the first question to answer, is kind of work backwards and understand why, the why, not the what, right? And then make adjustments based on what you can control. So, if you have a low conversion rate across those particular campaigns, I would go in and start pausing out keywords that you're not converting across. And that naturally is going to increase the conversion rate across that particular campaign itself. If you are seeing relatively strong conversion rate, but your CPC is incredibly high because you're in, I would recommend then segmenting budget, segmenting a portion of your daily budget out for rank and segmenting a portion of your daily budget out for profitability and optimizing accordingly. So I think answering the why is going to sort of lead you down the correct path here.
Yeah. I'd also be interested in like how long you've been selling. Is this like a new like product launch? Is this, something you've been doing for a while and you're just seeing some seasonality? So I'd be interested in any more context you have there as well.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen too, be very specific in this category. Majority of the time, unless it's like Christmas time, I feel like women know exactly what they want when they're searching for it. Like if I'm searching like gold hoops or like thin gold hoops or something like that, I know exactly what I want. I know, what price point I kind of want to pay. So there's not a whole lot of guesswork, even though it is a very saturated category. Um, with that said, during Christmas time, you will have like more men and people gifting products. So you want to make sure you're catering your strategies towards Q4 giftability, Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
all that good stuff as well.
Definitely definitely agreed.
Okay. All right. You mentioned SQP. What are the best quick tips on how to utilize data from SQP, also weekly or monthly? So I think we touched on weekly or monthly. I tend to recommend, weekly after a big event where you're
Mhm.
going to have a lot more data. So like Prime Days, viral events, even like really big sales weeks. So like if you're seeing like, twice the sales you normally see, like pull the SQP, like what was different, right? And you can compare them, but comparisons I tend to recommend like week to week and not so much like week to month, because it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as far as like how to best utilize that data, any tips there?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Definitely utilize the SQP after periods of high traffic. And I would definitely recommend analyzing on a week over week basis just to see your general change across your impression share, click share, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
So, and I would definitely recommend looking at the product level as well as a side, or as opposed to just the brand view. Make sure you really dial in, your top performing search terms per ASIN as opposed to just at the brand level.
definitely. I agree with that. Um, you know, Purchases is what most people tend to care the most about, because that's how their business model kind of operates on people actually buying their product. I think a lot of the other like sections are overlooked a lot of the time, and I think there's a lot of valuable data in there. As far as like brand share, right? So how often are you coming up for the searches in question? Like you might have a lot of purchases on it, or you might not, right? You might only have like one or two purchases, but what percentage of that brand share is yours? That would tell me that maybe you need to bid a little bit more aggressively on that specific keyword, right? If you don't have a whole lot of brand share on it, right? So I hear a lot of feedback from clients saying, "Oh, the market is capped, or there's only so much market share for everybody." And that may be true in certain circumstances, right? Within Amazon and where you go to DSP, maybe for more outside of Amazon advertising.
Mhm.
Um, but don't be afraid to take market share from other competitors. How much brand share do you have on competitor keywords? I see that sometimes where sometimes our brand analytics tell us that we have, over half of the brand share for a brand that we are not, you know? So that's some good information too, right? It's all about kind of what you're looking for, and don't overlook the impressions or clicks or cart ads, right? Because you can really tell a lot about search volume, first of all, right? With impressions. Clicks, like, are people interested in your product? Like, are you relevant for that
Right.
specific word, right? And then add to carts, like I said, right before Prime Day, that's going to be a big one, as people are like stashing items, but also, yeah, especially now that it's been announced, right? And like what the days are. But maybe like you can think more into, why are people just adding it to cart but not actually converting, right? Like
Exactly.
what's missing there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the point that I was going to make. If you have one without the other, right? Let's say you have a high click share across a particular search term, but a low add to cart rate. You need to figure out why the customer is moving off of the PDP then, versus the opposite. If you have a low click share and a high add to cart rate, you can assume that you can probably bid a bit higher in that specific keyword. So that's a great call out.
Thanks. From Bernardo, what would be a good strategy if in a campaign with manual targeting keywords, just one is getting sales and the other ones are not getting sales, but they are having impressions and clicks, all are relevant?
Yeah. So I think this is a good example of uh, rolling out a single keyword campaign for one of your top performing keywords, and then optimizing that specific campaign, or the existing campaign then, for orders and profitability. I'm unaware, of course, of the bids and the budgets, within that specific campaign. But it sounds like there might be a chance that one keyword's bid might be significantly higher than the rest, which speaks to, how many keywords you also have included in that campaign. Would definitely recommend, no more than 20. If you can go less, then you can stretch that budget out across a lesser amount of keywords throughout the day. So
Definitely. I see this a lot. Even in some campaigns that only have like 10 keywords, if there's one or two that are really eating up a lot of that budget, um, you either have to, I guess, increase budgets, but I would probably recommend segmenting a little bit smaller, like you're recommending here, just for the control aspect of it too, right? So you can really see how these campaigns are performing, and which keywords, you know, you got to let some shine on their own and have their own moment, I think.
Yeah,
So I think that's a good advice there.
for sure.
Not every brand and every product can be top three. If we live in the top 10, can tacos remain profitable?
Interesting. I'm assuming this means if you live in the top 10. uh,
Like if you're still page one, but you maybe don't want to get into like a bidding war with like the top three competitors, like
Got
can
it.
you still be profitable, right? I'd
Yeah,
say yes. Yeah.
I definitely think so. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of factors that go into it, of course. How involved you are with external marketing and your efforts off of Amazon, brand building efforts off of Amazon generally come into play here. Personally, I'll work with brands where 60% of their sales are branded because their brand presence is so strong within their specific category. And for that reason, those brands are highly profitable. But what's tricky is acquiring new customers. So, um, long-winded answer, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. There will always be certain people that prefer certain brands over others and who have preferences. And if you have brand loyalty, I think that says a lot about how profitable and maybe even like successful that you are. Right? Success can be measured a whole different number of ways, but I think loyalty is a good indicator as well. Okay, and then any advice on how to get reviews aside from Amazon Vine? Could you please talk about best campaign structure for the jewelry? How would you structure the campaign?
Yeah. So I am going to skip the review aspect here, and just talk PPC structure here.
Okay.
Um, so I think it ultimately depends on how much you are willing to spend across specific variations, right? Um, if you have one parent with 10 variations underneath it and you are segmenting out each variation into their own campaigns, you're going to be spending much more than you would be if you included all variations in one campaign. But I would say, get specific with what your customer base is searching for. If they're searching by pendant design, crosses, etc., I would recommend segmenting those out specifically. If they're searching gold versus silver versus bracelet, necklace, etc., I would recommend segmenting it out that way. So just getting a general understanding of how your customer is functioning in the aisle is going to be detrimental.
Definitely. And if you have, a product that, does really well, one singular kind of variation within a bunch, maybe you want to focus, all of your attention on that one, or maybe it makes sense to kind of go away from that one and try to focus more on targeting the other variations if that one doesn't really need the extra help. Kind of depends on what you want to do there. As far as Vine, I love Vine for products that don't really have like really subjective like smells or tastes or anything that can really sway reviews in that way. For jewelry, I think Vine would be pretty good. Aside from Vine, definitely don't do anything, and as far as asking for reviews or anything like that. That's rule number one. I think that's like an Amazon like never forget, right? Because against terms of service, review manipulation. With that said, though, um, you know, there are ways to kind of direct even, if you have a website that's like well established or something like that, where you can like ask for feedback on like an Amazon listing or something, you know what I mean, where it's not attached to Amazon itself. Um, I also have clients that ask, oh, me and my friends, all from the same, like 10,000 person town, want to all leave reviews and on my product. And to that, I'd say Amazon also can see your IP addresses, right? Unless you've got all your friends have VPNs and can be from all different, parts of wherever. I wouldn't recommend that. Um, and certain reviews, they get a little bit less believable the more personal they are, I think, right? Is your average reviewer really going to leave like 3 or 4 photos like of your product at like different angles and like it make it look really tasteful? Like probably not. And I think even when I'm looking at reviews on Amazon, I can kind of tell when they're like friends of the person who owns the company or something like that, or if there's like more information than maybe you'd even just know from the Amazon listing, you know. So I'd be careful there, right? I think there are ways to direct traffic to Amazon, if that's what you're trying to do. Attribution
Mhm.
can be great there, especially if you want to have like any type of link tree or something set up from Instagram or Twitter, or have other, you know what I mean, places direct to Amazon. Just be really, really careful, asking for feedback or, reviews explicitly.
Yep, agreed there. I think weigh the risk between black hat tactics and getting shut down, and
Yeah.
you'll come to find that maybe that 3 reviews that I illegally asked for wasn't worth it. So
Yeah. John chiming in. You mean I can't pay my mom $50 to order 10 items for me and leave 11 5-star reviews? I know. It's so disappointing. All these rules that we have to follow on Amazon, but unfortunately, they exist for a reason and probably because somebody's abused them in the past. So, with that said, David, I do think that if you do have variations, um, if it's worth it to you, like separating those variations, so like unparenting them and enrolling each variation in Vine, waiting for reviews, and then reparenting, that could be a good way to combine reviews, and that is within terms of service. You'd have to pay the $200 each time for each ASIN to do that, but if it's worth it to you, which I think it is, I would probably recommend that.
good call out.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Um, Maybe two. We'll see. So I don't hear so much about attribution these days. Of course, Amazon loves external traffic, but does attribution actually work?
Yeah, I would say that's a weighted question as well. Short answer, yes. You always want to be able to attribute the purchase path from where it's coming from, right? And for that reason, I think incorporating attribution into your advertising strategy is smart. Although it's sort of a weighted aspect, right? Where there are a lot of different facets of advertising you want to make sure you are up to speed on, so you have the utmost education about your specific brand. I see attribution as an educational piece to see where your sales are coming from.
Yeah. I agree there. I think it can be really great, but it's only going to be as fantastic as your social channels, right? I don't really recommend it for people who don't have a built out social media, right? If you don't have that strong presence outside of Amazon, attribution is probably not going to really work for you specifically.
I would agree.
Okay. So I think that's all the questions we can get to today, because I do want to give a little bit of time to kind of give the spotlight to Better AM. So with that, I'll present my screen real quick and do some quick promo here. So here we have a Better AMS, increase your advertising sales on Amazon. So I see you can get a free audit here, which is very cool. Some testimonials, subscribe to a newsletter, which is cool. How often does that come out? Do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay.
We are trying to get things moving a bit quicker on the social side, so expect to see more soon.
Okay, perfect. Free audit, Trustpilot. campaign optimization, expansion, reporting, budget management. All sounds cool. You can contact them for any questions, and then all the team members, which you have Adam right here. Perfect. Little bio, little how-to. Cool. This is really cool. Free audit. In terms of like these questions and that kind of thing, how fast does it usually take to get like a response back about the audit, or to find out if you're like a good candidate for this service?
Yeah, good question. So generally, we will run the audit within 24 hours. And we always want to hop on a call and just go through transparent expectation to make sure you're a good fit. One thing we pride ourselves on at BetterAMS is utmost transparency, and we are not going to make false promises. The last thing we want to do is come in and ultimately just collect your money with no growth incentive. That's not how we function. So if we believe that we have an opportunity to help you, we will be fully transparent in where we think we can take your brand.
Yeah.
So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, we won't. Yeah, telling people, oh yeah, we'll triple your sales in
Right.
2 weeks, and no, you're realistic about it. No, that's really great, and we try to do the same here at MAG. But we have all those other like design aspects and that kind of thing, kind of intermingling with PPC. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's really helpful. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Of course, Marissa.
This was fun.
It's been
I
a
think this was
blast.
fun. Yeah. We had a lot of really great questions today. So thank you everybody who asked 1 or 2 or 3. Appreciate it. With that said, tomorrow we do have John Aspinall's Ace in Review podcast at 12 Eastern. I believe we also have the Thursday podcast that's going to be ongoing now. And then we also have the Friday PPC AMA, or regular AMA, for all Amazon questions, even though we answered a few of them Vine related and that kind of thing on this podcast. But that one is led by Faith and Tom, and they'll be taking all of your questions. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Adam. And I look forward to speaking with you soon, connecting on LinkedIn if we haven't already.
Likewise, Marissa. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.